silence to keep our troops in our prayers. Thank you. Thanks. Salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
One thing I forgot to mention also to keep in your prayers is former freeholder Roger Craig of South Brunswick, who just recently passed away, and also unexpectedly one of our employees in Office of Planning, Deborah Marshall. Keep them in your prayers as well, please. Thank you.
Notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-10, has been complied with and shall be entered into the minutes of this meeting.
Roll call.
Freeholder Armwood.
Here.
Freeholder Barrett Volante. Freeholder Kenny.
Here.
Freeholder Polos.
Here.
Freeholder Tamaro.
Here.
Freeholder Valenti.
Here.
Freeholder Director Rios.
Here. We have some recognition.
Yes, we have a proclamation recognizing February as American Heart Month in Middlesex County. And we're also recognizing the 70th anniversary of the Civic League of Greater New Brunswick and the honorees of the South Amboy St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Freeholder Valente, second by Freeholder Tamaro. Roll call.
Freeholder Armwood.
Yes.
Freeholder Kenny.
Yes.
Freeholder Polos.
Yes.
Freeholder Tamaro.
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti.
Yes.
Freeholder Director Rios.
Yes. Freeholder Polos.
Thank you, Director.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I believe we have someone here from the Heart Association. We have a couple of ladies here. And appropriately wearing red this evening. On behalf of the Board of Freeholders, I want to welcome you and announce to those who are watching today that we are celebrating in February the Heart Association Month. There are several initiatives that the Heart Association is involved in, and we need to continue to recognize that heart disease is still the #1 killer of men and women throughout the United States. It's a disease that we need to continue to work out each and every day. The Heart Association takes the lead on that through all of their efforts, through education, through the science and work that they do, and the promotion that they're involved with. They're a wonderful organization, and I'd like the ladies who are here today to explain a little bit about the 3 initiatives that they're moving ahead with as part of this new program. But the Go Red Women, I think, is really the #1 program that we wanted to stress today. And I would ask them to take a couple minutes before I present the proclamation to give some more detail about what that is all about.
Thank you. Go Red for Women is a campaign or a movement that the American Heart Association introduced about 12 years ago because it became apparent that women did not realize that heart disease was the #1 cause of death amongst women. Only about 1 in 5 women, which is about 20%, realized that it was a critical health threat. So we introduced Go Red for Women, and along with that, Wear Red Day, which took place the first Friday in February, as it always does. And it just basically is to build awareness about heart disease and stroke in women, and also just to educate and also promote prevention of heart disease in everyone, but especially among women. Thank you.
Well, we thank you very much, and it's a pleasure for Middlesex County, in particular our Department of Health, under the direction of Les Jones, to partner with the Heart Association on this wonderful initiative to educate and promote healthier living for all of us. Thank you so much.
Jim.
Can I just get a photo?
Hold that.
The other recognitions are not here.
No.
Okay. Okay. Ordinances. Public hearing.
Ordinance number 15-001. Notice of this public hearing was published in the Home News Tribune on February 10, 2015. This public hearing was authorized at a meeting of the Board of Chosen Freeholders held February 5, 2015.
Clerk will read ordinance number 15-001 by title only.
Refunding bond ordinance of the County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, providing for 1, the refunding of certain outstanding general obligation bonds of the county to achieve net present value debt service savings, and 2, authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $34 million aggregate principal amount of general obligation refunding bonds of the county to effect such refunding and appropriating the proceeds therefore, and authorizing the public hearing to be held on Thursday, February 19, 2015, at 7 p.m. and publication thereof.
At this time, I declare the public hearing open. Anyone have any comments on the ordinance?
Good evening, Freeholders. Charles Cradaville. I'm from New Brunswick. I'd just like to ask for a brief explanation of the purpose of this ordinance and what the money is for.
Mr. Pruitti?
Well,
Okay.
we're refunding old debt, if I'm correct, Mr. Peretti, to get a savings on the interest rate, so that we'll be saving money as this debt's out there. We've done a few of them over the last year or so, taking advantage of the fact that the interest rates are so low.
So when you say old debt, can you elaborate on what the debt is for, or is it various projects?
It's various projects that have been done throughout the county, whether it be infrastructure or buildings. I don't have the exact list of which ones we're doing here. I don't know if Mr. Peretti has that.
I know there are obligations from 07 and 08. I can provide the date.
That's fine. And the when you say refunding, does that mean what exactly does that mean?
Basically, you're going out there and just renewing the debt at a lower interest rate.
Okay, so it's just
Am I
the
correct,
same
Mr.
debt,
Peretti?
new interest rate. Gotcha.
There has to be a savings of at least 3% plus.
Otherwise, the state won't let you do it.
Okay. Well, thank you. That sounds good.
No problem.
Anyone else from the public?
I'll move to close the public portion.
Motion to close by Freeholder Tamaro, seconded by Freeholder Valente. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance number 15-001 on final reading?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Freeholder Valente, seconded by Freeholder Tamaro. Roll call.
Freeholder Armwood?
Yes.
Freeholder Kenny?
Yes.
Freeholder Polos?
Yes.
Freeholder Tamaro?
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti?
Yes.
Freeholder Director Rios?
Yes. Okay. Do we have any resolutions to be, I'm sorry, where am I going? Reports of Freeholders. Freeholder Ken Armwood. I'm going ahead of myself here.
It's okay. Thank you, Freeholder Director. Middlesex County VOTEC special education students learn to use public transportation. Making special education students comfortable with public transportation is the goal of a program being undertaken by the Middlesex County Vocational and Technical Schools with the help of Rutgers University and the New Jersey Travel Independence Program, a travel training course for students with disabilities. Travel training, a short-term intensive program, helps students with disabilities learn everything they need to feel safe and comfortable when they leave home for work or leisure activities on public transportation. Students are taught to travel independently on the safest, most direct route to a regularly visited destination, such as a work site. Rutgers and the Allen M. Voorhees Transportation Center will provide further instruction to MCVTS students through a grant program in Middlesex County. From the Cultural and Heritage Commission, wintering in the Raritan River Valley. The location, the historic Indian Queen Tavern at East Jersey Old Town Village in Johnson Park, 1050 River Road, Piscataway, New Jersey. The date will be March 1st, 2015 at 2 p.m. Join us for a lecture at the historic Indian Queen Tavern with Wade P. Katz, a director of cultural resources, with John Milner Associates, a historic preservation consulting firm. As the American Revolution raged on, the Raritan River Valley turned from a refuge for British and Hessian troops into yet another battleground. The winter of 1777 found Britain's 35th Foot Camp at both New Brunswick and nearby Raritan Landing, where they were soon surrounded by American forces. The story of how the British forged through the grueling winter has recently been brought to light through documentary research and new archaeological findings. A multimedia lecture at the very place where the story began. It's an event history lovers will remember for a long time to come. This program is offered free of charge. Registration is required. Call 732-745-3030 to register or for directions or information. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Freeholder Director.
Thank you, Phil. On with Freeholder Charlie Kenny.
Thank you, Director. Just to go back to the refinancing of the bonds that we just spoke about, part of that is the low interest rate, and part of that is the fact that we have a AAA bond rating that helps us achieve an even lower rate that we save money on. And Charlie, getting to possibly one of your questions, the estimated savings over this time is going to be $1.6 million on the bond debt that we have out there, just so you know. All right. Another item, the cash management plan, Resolution 15263R, is authorizing the CFO to enter an agreement with TD Bank to utilize electronic payment services to our vendors. And this highlights phase 2 of our enhancement plan. We spoke about this last year. The goal is to be able to pay the vendors faster, and then hopefully that'll bring smaller businesses into wanting to do business with the county, because they won't have that outlay of money out there while they're waiting for it to go through the billing process. So hopefully if when we get this plant up and running, we're looking at possibly like a three-week turnaround from billing date to payment date, and that's only because of the way the meetings fall, that might be the time that it takes. So I want to thank Mr. Peretti and all those involved, Khalid, and all of you that are making that happen. Another part of the cash management plan that we have underway is the banking, where we have been working over the past year to try and reduce the banking fees and also raise our interest rates so we get a better return on our money. I know Mr. Peretti's office has been working very hard, and we're slowly starting to see that fall into place, and hopefully by the end of this year we'll see a profit or an excess of $250,000 in interest on our money that we have in the banks for the year. So I want to thank you and the office for your efforts in trying to increase the amount of money that we're making on just having it sit in the bank. So thank you very much. I do have one question for you. I don't know if you're going to know the answer, but if you don't, maybe you can get back to me. But in regards to our salt contract, is it possible to look at possibly doing 2 vendors for our co-op program as opposed to 1, and also on having them make it so that we could go in if we need to and pick up on our own? And that works more down to the towns. That's where I've been hearing it from. And I don't know if you guys have been looking at that, if you've been...
Actually, the administrator and I discussed today, when we next do the salt contract, to do a primary and secondary vendor. We would guarantee a minimum amount for a secondary vendor so that it would be attractive for them to bid and to want to be a secondary vendor as opposed to just a primary vendor. With regards to the locals or even the county going in and picking up their own salt, this came up last year when there was problems with the salt, and our contractor mentioned that there's a lot of union issues and trucking issues and things like that. So last year they were not allowing anybody but their contracted trucking vendors to pick up the salt and to deliver it to us.
Okay. Are we able to revisit that again?
I can certainly question them, yes.
Okay. All right. Because the fact that sometimes the one vendor runs out, and if we only have one vendor, the towns have to go looking, and since they're at the bottom of the chain, as far as the food chain goes, it's the state, the county, and then the local towns.
There's a limited number of vendors that service the entire state. I think that we went out and actually did twice this year. There were only 3 vendors that responded, and the price also fluctuates depending on where those vendors' ports are. One vendor that reports in Philadelphia, so for us to contract with them, the rate would have been higher because they have to, take into effect their delivery costs and things like that. But
Okay, and I thank you for being proactive on that. I appreciate it.
We were concerned about that throughout the year, throughout this past winter with all these storms, and we were on the phone between the administrator and myself, and got engaged in that, and we want to make sure that we don't have an issue come next winter, because these suppliers sometimes, they just don't get it.
And then the towns that jump in on our co-ops, they're at the bottom, so they don't get delivered until it's,
Yep.
they have nobody else to deliver to. So that would help. So I thank you again
Solve that issue.
for being proactive on that. I appreciate it, and I'll let the towns know that had spoken to me. The only other item I have is on March 1st is a charity chili cook-off, and it's going to be held at J.J. Biddings in Woodbridge on Main Street. He does this charity cook-off every year. It's from noon until 2 p.m., and this year, the charity that's been chosen is the Mastanduno Children's College Fund. And Mr. Mastanduno is a co-worker of mine. On December 27th, his family experienced a very tragic situation where just from 1 minute to the next, his wife was there, and a couple minutes later, she was no longer there. She passed away that day. A couple hours later, she was declared at the hospital. But there have been various events going on to try and raise money for the kids for their college fund, to show some community support and try and help the family out, just to let them know that we care. Michael is very active. He's very active in MDA. He runs a bowling event every year for MDA to raise money. He's active in other programs in town with his kids. His wife passed away, and they have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. So if you're able to come out on March 1st and come to the chili cook-off, it's $10. You get to sample the contestants that are there. All the proceeds are going to go to the college fund. It's from noon until 2 p.m. at J.J. Biddings in Woodbridge. I thank Mike Cerami, the owner of J.J. Biddings, for doing this. It's very nice of him. And there's also going to be a dinner later in the month, but the Sentinel today, the Woodbridge Sentinel, has a story on it that you can get more information. But like I said, if you're around March 1st from noon to 2 p.m. And that's all I have, Director. Thank you.
Thank you, Freeholder Kenny. Freeholder H. James Polis.
Thank you, Director. A few items, just an update on our e-waste. I reported at the last meeting that we've been having some trouble trying to identify a vendor to pick up electronic waste throughout the county. We sent a letter. I sent a letter to the Commissioner of the DEP, and I spoke with their offices yesterday. They are working with a contractor. I believe the name is Vintage. I think our people are already in conversation with that contractor, who is looking to try to pick up where the prior vendors left off, to be able to provide e-waste collection throughout the state. That would be great, because it would make it much easier for our communities to be able to collect those materials and be able to dispose of them properly. They're also going to address a problem that we had with some of the large box retailers who were supposed to be accepting things like televisions and computers. We found out through our staff, and again, our staff did a wonderful job in identifying locations that were turning people away for various reasons that did not meet the criteria. I'm pleased to tell you that the enforcement arm of DEP is now going to be dealing with that to try to rectify that situation. So I think we've made some great progress in just the last couple of weeks, and staff under Mickey Gross, Carol, the entire team have done a wonderful job. Earlier today, I was in Hamilton attending the HITSPAC meeting. It's the Highway Traffic Safety Policy Advisory Committee. I was asked to make a presentation about a new initiative that would modify elements of Title 39. For those of you who are unfamiliar with what Title 39 is, it is the statute in our code, our state code, that provides traffic enforcement in communities. Many community associations throughout the state, private community associations, which we would think of as like a condominium association or a homeowners association, have private roads. There is some confusion we have found through our comprehensive traffic safety program that we have here in Middlesex County, where some of those private communities who have private roads are having difficulty having local police come in and do Title 39 enforcement for things like speeding, other traffic safety violations, running stop signs, etc. The Title 39 language is a little gray as to whether or not those types of enforcement measures can take place. Some communities read it one way, others may read it differently. So the presentation today to the HITSPAC group, which is a real kind of comprehensive group representing the state police, education, Department of Motor Vehicles, Attorney General's office, and so forth. The point of today's presentation was to ask them to reevaluate Title 39 ask for an Attorney General's opinion to try to clarify the issue, and if legislation is needed to allow police departments to do enforcement in private communities, then the request was that that type of legislation be generated. So it was very well received, and I think that at the end of the day, it'll make our private communities within the county and certainly throughout the state a much safer place to be. It is a concern that we hear from many condominium associations. People are concerned about the safety of their children and so forth in these communities as people are speeding about, and they would like to have an element of enforcement if possible. We had a very productive reentry task force meeting a couple of weeks ago. I want to thank our warden and the entire team who were involved with that. We made great strides in providing some new services and improving some of the services that we've been providing in the past in the area of legal aid, providing clothing, transportation, and even looking at a step-down or halfway house to try to transition those who are coming out of our facility into the mainstream, into our communities. So we're made, I think, again, significant progress in just a few short weeks. We'll be meeting again, I think, in a couple of weeks to try to further some of those goals. Last but not least, I just want to compliment our OEM staff, our medical corps, our health department people, a hazmat team, everyone who was involved in responding to an accident on the turnpike down by Exit A a week or so ago. It was a tragic accident on the ice involving 40 vehicles, several trucks, a bus, one fatality, a number of injuries. And I will tell the board that a lot of the equipment that we have worked to collect over the last few years through grant dollars, through county funds, things like our medical bus, some of the transportation buses that we could use for what we call green tag, walking wounded, people who need transportation but don't need to necessarily be laying down in a bed or in a wheelchair, were all utilized at this scene. It's comforting to know that we have that equipment available to us, and it's even more comforting to know that we have a wonderful staff of paid individuals and volunteers who rise to the occasion each time they're called to bring that equipment to the scene, provide wonderful first responder service. They, along with the Township of Monroe, the State Police, Hightstown Fire Department, so many different agencies that responded, all did an absolutely wonderful job to take a very bad situation and try to provide as much care and comfort as they could. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Freeholder Polos. Freeholder Charlie Tamaro.
Thank you, Director, and once again, I want to thank our Public Works and Parks workers, our plowers and our salters, who once again did an awesome job with our last snowstorm. We know it's not easy to work those hours and plow the hundreds of miles of roads we have throughout the county. With spring 29 days away, with any kind of luck, we'll start seeing the last of our snowstorms. And especially since they have 15 feet of snow in Vermont, and I can't use my skis this year. So nobody's looking more forward to spring than I am. Looking ahead to our warmer weather, the Middlesex County Conservation Corps is looking for volunteers for our spring projects. We have opportunities for beach cleanups and trail building throughout the park system. For more information, please contact our Conservation Corps section on our website, or contact Scott Myler at 732-745-3064. Anyone interested in our slow pitch this spring, we have to register by March 13th. Teams will begin to play late in March, and new this year is an ability to register for both spring and fall leagues at the same time. Registration is a first-come, first-served basis. Leagues do fill up quickly, so get your rosters together, and you can either deliver them to the park office or send them to the address listed on the website. And finally, our 2015 Youth Freeholders Basketball Tournament will be held in March, but the deadline for entry is February 27th. All the information is listed in our county parks and recreation website in the section titled Sports. You can also contact Aaron at 732-745-4222. So please have a rest of a safe winter, and we look forward to our wonderful spring. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Freeholder Tamaro. Freeholder Blanquita Valenti.
Thank you, Freeholder Director. First of all, I want to say that HASAC, our Human Services Advisory Council, hosted the celebration of Black History Month, a panel on civil rights and the efforts and the difficulties that some of our citizens face in the county. And among the panelists was, of course, our own sheriff, She had to overcome the fact that not only was she Afro-American, but she was a woman in order to enter and become a sheriff officer. And also, we had, I'm sorry, I'm losing track of the other people that were on the panel, but they were all wonderful. And Dave Harris from the New Brunswick Daycare Center, he was one of the panelists, and it was quite an interesting session, and it was very well received. And it's amazing that we've come this far. Also, I want to remind people that tax season is upon us. AARP Tax Aid is a free volunteer-run tax assistance and preparation service available for taxpayers with low and moderate incomes, with special attention to those age 60 and older. AARP Tax Aid volunteers are trained in cooperation with the Internal Revenue Service to provide free face-to-face tax assistance and preparation assistance with federal and state tax returns, New Jersey's property tax senior freeze program, and other related forms. E-filing is offered at most sites. There are 17 tax aid sites in Middlesex County, located primarily in senior centers or libraries in East Brunswick, Edison, Highland Park, Metuchen, Monroe, New Brunswick, North Brunswick, Old Bridge, Piscataway, Plainsboro, Saraville, South Brunswick, South River, Spotswood, and Woodbridge. And a list of the sites is available on our county's webpage. Sites operate by appointment only, so please call ahead. And don't forget, and I guess we can't, that April 15th is a deadline to submit your taxes. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Freeholder Valenti. I just have a few comments too. I would like to reiterate what Freeholder Tamaro said. I want to thank our employees that were involved in snow plowing between Public Works and our Parks Department. They did an outstanding job, and I know it is a challenge sometimes, all the hours and the conditions, but they pulled through as usual and did a great job. I just want to also warn the public that there's a lot of scams going out there, whether they're phone scams or Facebook scams, just to be alert. And if anybody tries to scam you, just call that agency that they're calling from. Whether they say they're calling from the IRS, deal with the IRS directly. Call them or expect something in the mail, because anytime the IRS deals with anything, they mail you, not phone calls that you owe money. And it's a shame to see that some of our residents are getting scammed and giving money to these hackers. Also, I just want to say that our local girl from East Brunswick, Jax on American Idol, moved up again. She's in the final 24, so let's root for her and hopefully vote for her. Maybe she's the #1 American Idol. Okay, Mr. Kelso, any resolutions to be added?
There are none.
Any resolutions to be amended?
There are none.
Resolutions to be held?
There are none.
Resolutions to be voided?
There are none.
Anyone from the public that would like to discuss any of the resolutions listed?
Good evening once again. Charles Cradaville from New Brunswick. I have a question on one of these resolutions, 15-274R, approval of amendments to the County Office of Parks and Recreation rules and regulations. Can you just tell me what rules and regulations are being changed?
Rick?
One of the primary goals for changing the rules and regulations was when we changed the county structure from individual departments to offices. In order to be in compliance with that, and this is required us to update our rules. Required us to update our rules and regulations. We added things to better help us to facilitate removing. I'm sorry.
Take time.
Take your time.
Removing abandoned vehicles from the park. We also dealt with, we've been having some difficulty with use of drones and unmanned flying vehicles within the park, so we address that through the permit process in various updates.
It's interesting. So it's now required to get a permit to fly a model plane or a quadcopter?
We've always had a permit process for a model airplane flying. We do have a model airplane flying facility, Citizen Park. So in conjunction with the local club, the Model Airplane Flying Club, we have a process where we set up and it can be facilitated by the club members and provide that service for folks.
And as for like like a quadcopter, or what's referred to as drones, what are the new rules?
The new rules is that if somebody wanted to use those within a park facility, they would have to come to us for a permit. We would have to work with the flying club to see if that would be a permitted use under the way their club is organized, because they're a little bit two different things. The folks who are flying the actual model airplanes versus the folks who are flying the drones. We would help facilitate that between the club and anybody who wanted to do that. What we do want to attempt to control is folks taking drones or those unmanned flying aircraft and flying them over public areas, flying them over events. We had an incident in Spring Lake Park last year where somebody was flying a drone over a public event. It starts to cause folks to worry, to panic a little bit. So we want to be able to provide those recreational opportunities in the most appropriate way.
And so, just to be clear, are you allowed to do that now in Spring Lake Park, or?
We're not. If you have a drone or an unmanned flying aircraft, you need to come to the park's office to apply for your permit so that we can regulate that activity in the proper place, which would be the model airplane flying.
Really? So under these new rules, somebody who wants to, send up an aircraft and get videotape of a public event in Roosevelt Park or Johnson Park would not be allowed to fly over
That is correct.
at any time. Even if they ask for the permit, you're going to deny it.
For a public event like that, for someone to fly over a public event, we would take it under consideration. We need to know what the public event was, what the purpose of them flying, the purpose of them taping the program was. Part of this is we want to allow those opportunities, but we don't also want to incite panic or disturb other folks' recreational experiences within the parks.
Certainly, I understand that.
That's also consistent with when you look at other policies related to the national park system, as well as state parks, which regulate those through special use permits.
Okay, so just to be clear, though, if somebody requests to fly something in Johnson Park, let's say there's no event, they just want to get beautiful pictures of the river. Is that covered under the regulations as allowed, not allowed?
Not without a permit. So contact the parks office, come in and see us. We want to understand what the needs are and what the use will be, and then we'll be happy to work with individuals to be able to help facilitate.
Okay, well,
Be able to give you a direct answer now for any and all instances. We want to be able to work with folks.
yeah, I understand. I just think that originally you'd said that those devices would only be allowed to be used at the airplane flying place.
That's the place that we have set aside for that type of activity. From what I understand, what you're asking me, if somebody wanted to conduct this activity outside of that location
Time.
for other reasons, then what I'm saying is, yeah, come and talk to us, and if necessary and appropriate, we may consider issuing a permit for it.
Do you need a
Thank
permit?
you.
Do you need a permit for the other for the airplane flying place?
We do.
So you need a permit for everything, is what you're saying.
Time.
Please hold this. I don't think the questions have been answered adequately.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public?
Move to close the public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Mr. Kelso.
I don't believe anyone has any matters to remove from the agenda. If not, then Freeholder Director, a motion would then be in order to adopt the consent agenda consisting of resolution numbers 15-248 through 15-336.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Freeholder Valente, second by Freeholder Tamaro. Roll call.
Freeholder Armwood,
Yes.
Freeholder Kenny,
Yes.
Freeholder Polos,
Yes.
Freeholder Tamaro,
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti,
Yes.
Freeholder Director Rios.
Yes. This time I open the meeting to the public on any discussion.
Yes, Dan Sirikowski, 679 Charles Street, Perth Amboy. This is a continuation of the topic I raised 2 weeks ago. On February 14th at the City Council meeting, February 11th, they passed an ordinance, not a resolution, an ordinance, which is very unusual, authorizing an agreement with the County of Middlesex for the transfer of real property for the development of a county park, Block 238, lots blah, blah, blah. This 6 acres fronts the water on Arthur Kill. Staten Island is on the other side. This is the crown jewel of the land in that area. You're going to get it for $1 because of foreclosure. The people who owned it, the 6 acres, walked away from it. The contiguous property that is owned by Barry Rosengarten, who's a high-powered Democrat contributor in the county, especially in Perth Amboy, he got $1 million an acre for contaminated land. You couldn't build a school on it. You couldn't build housing on it, because to build housing, you'd have to remediate by removing everything, the soil, whether it's 10 feet deep, 20 feet deep. You bought it for $1 million an acre, but you're going to cap it for a park. This is a scam, and again, I'm saying, not only I, other people went to the FBI about it. They're investigating this, Barry's property. They're going to investigate this property. This property, with the knowledge and the permission of Mayor Diaz and the tax collector, who's the mayor of Helmeta, Nancy Martin, she's in the papers about the animal shelter, they allowed them not to pay taxes. Didn't tell the city council for at least 6 years. They owed at least $500,000 to $1 million. In addition, the tax collector, Nancy Martin, should have authorized the collection of interest on delinquent taxes for all of these years. She didn't do that. I think at the demand of the Mayor Diaz. So both of them may have committed a crime. But again, you paid $1 million for a property that was never, for Barry, he never applied for housing, he never got approval, he bought the property on speculation over 20 years ago. The deal fell through with Mr. Kushner, the billionaire family. They were going to purchase it, but they said, we're walking away from it. It's too expensive to remediate for housing. But they scammed it with the phony appraisal. It's a fraudulent appraisal, in my opinion, my real estate background. Mr. Polos has a real estate background. If he reads the appraisal, he'll see. The appraisal was done in mid-2011. The real estate crash was 2008. The data is from 2007, before the crash, from towns like Marlborough, Manalapan, and this is Perth Amboy, light industrial contaminated land. And the appraiser said, I'm only doing this at the request. This is not a real appraisal. This is a hypothetical. If he could build housing on it, if there's no problems with the property. And even when I told you the first time 14 months ago, I don't know if you closed on a deal. Because like I said, the FBI called me several weeks ago, again, because I go to them every several months. And I'm going to go to them again because I left a couple of messages with the new information. Again, I'm not the only one that's going to the FBI about this. Back off on this deal about the donation. Find out if the mayor and the tax collector committed a crime. How much did they owe the city? Who made the backroom deal? The Mayor Diaz and her cronies? The real masters of Perth Amboy. It's not Mayor Diaz. The real masters are still there. Joe Voss may be in jail, but they're still there. Okay? So you should check that out. The other thing I want to talk about, I know that you probably realize that the police chief from Perth Amboy was arrested, suspended without pay, and indicted for theft of services. In addition, it says in the article that he's been investigated for sexual harassment and sexual assault. The rumor about the sexual assault, nobody wanted to believe it. The harassment, everybody believes it. It could have been 5 women, it could have been 20 women. It's been going on for 20 years. What the business administrator, there was an audit in the police department. After the audit, the business administrator recommended to the mayor he should be immediately suspended for grand theft. Mayor Diaz said, no, nobody proved anything. It's just an audit. He hasn't been indicted. So the person who went was not the police chief. The business administrator was gone. I think he said, hey, I don't want to be part of this deal with whatever's going on here. And the reason Mayor Diaz is so adamant on protecting the police chief at the time is because she needs him to protect her and her family. Thank you. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Anyone else in the public?
Pardon? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Larabina. I live at 20 Jefferson Avenue here in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And the stuff I'm going to bring up is a little bit probably pales in comparison to the comments we just heard. But a couple of meetings ago, I asked about sidewalks on Riders Lane, and I wanted to see if the county was doing anything to look into that.
Excuse me?
Yes.
The property that's in question is owned both by, I guess, Rutgers, and so we had contacted both Rutgers and New Brunswick to address the matter if there was an opportunity to put sidewalks there. So that's where we stand right now with that.
And have they gotten back to you?
Not yet, no.
What? No.
Not yet, no.
That's unfortunate. Okay. I also have asked for a crosswalk across George Street to connect Bugler Park bike path to the bike path that goes across the John Lynch Bridge. A few weeks ago at the New Brunswick City Council, they passed an ordinance to make a crosswalk, and I wanted to see if the county is going to make movement on that. Do you also have to approve some sort of a resolution to make a crosswalk, or is that just going to happen?
Rich?
We have not gotten the resolution. We've been asking for it. They told us, but for some reason it just hasn't gotten to us yet. When we get it, we'll do a concurring resolution, and then weather permitting, we'll be able to strike.
All right, fantastic. If you could possibly make it a raised crosswalk table of some sort, or a lighted crosswalk with the little blinky lights that alert drivers that someone's crossing the street. That street is quite quick. People regularly drive on it in excess of 40 miles an hour, even though it's posted at 25. Is that a possibility?
We'd have to see what the
Either of those
engineers recommend, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay. And I had heard some disheartening news about a curb bump out on Nielsen Street. There are actually two of them. They're at the corner of Nielsen Street and Hazard Street, and I understand that the county's putting in the New Brunswick Bikeway on Nielsen Street. I'm very happy about that, but I guess what was told to me is that these two curb bump outs are going to be removed to make way for the bike lane, and this curb bump out is at a corner where the former Lord Sterling School is, that has been made into an active adult community. And I would hate to see these curb bump outs taken out, because they're put there so that the elderly people living in this apartment building can cross Nielsen Street. It makes it much easier for them to cross Nielsen Street. It takes about 10 feet off of the pavement that they have to cross. They're protected on the curb. And like I said, it takes about 10 feet away from the crossing that they have to make. I've looked at Nielsen Avenue. It's definitely, I think, wide enough to accommodate the bike lanes and the curb bump out with 2 lanes of travel. You just move the center line a little bit over into the other lane. It's not going to take too much, maybe about a couple of feet. And I just wanted to see if there was a response, if the curb bump out is planned on being demolished or not. Or
Rich?
I do not know offhand. I would have to look and investigate.
Okay.
That specifically.
Can I get with you after the meeting? Is that all right?
Sure.
All right, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening once again. Charles Cradaville, New Brunswick. I wanted to ask if any of the freeholders would be able to respond to Mr. Kurkowski's accusations, allegations, and what he said. I think it was very serious. Is there anything at all that the freeholders have to say?
This is Yes.
I'm willing to jump in. I would encourage anybody who has a concern that some type of illegal activity might have been done, not to bother with well, you can go to the FBI if you want, but there's a prosecutor's office right here. Walk right on over, give them your name, tell them your story, and I'm sure they'll investigate it. There was a presentation put on here in regards to the property at a meeting, an agenda meeting, if I'm correct, Director or Mr. Polomina? And we had a presentation put on right here in regards to that property. I think a park in the city of Perth Amboy is a wonderful thing. It's the first county park. It's across from our high school. I know my mother grew up in that area. You know, it was an industrial area, and I think the park is a worthwhile investment or addition to the city of Perth Amboy. As for the inner workings of the city of Perth Amboy, I've just told what anybody should do if they think that there's something going on that's not right.
Okay. Thank you for responding to that. I think when people come here, they should get responses to what they say. And I'm here. I just have one matter to ask about. I want to ask if Mr. Scott Campion is still employed by the Middlesex County Sheriff's Office.
Mr. Kelso, personnel matter.
We're not going to respond to that. It's a matter of personnel.
You won't tell me if he's still employed with the county.
I won't tell you what his employment status is without his consent.
Okay.
We've already responded to your Oprah request listing all the county employees, and I'm sure you received that. So you can check that list, whether he's on that, and it also identifies the status. You already have the information, Charlie.
Okay, well, I'm asking, can you tell me, is he an employee or not? Is he suspended? Is he fired?
His status is what it has been, and it's been identified to you before. He is currently suspended.
Right, and you understand that sometimes statuses can change. So I'm asking, as of this moment now, is he an employee of the Middlesex County Sheriff's
He is currently
Office?
suspended, and his rights are being protected by his counsel, and the county is represented as well. We're not going to talk about that status or the status of those proceedings.
Okay, and so
There are
just...
currently proceedings that are active.
Okay, so he is suspended as of today.
He just answered
I
your
answered the
question.
question.
He answered your question twice.
I had to work for it. Listen. He's suspended without pay. That was the status. That's my most recent understanding. I'm just verifying that I correctly understand this.
It was verified to you, Mr. Cradible.
Suspended without pay. Is that
He
correct?
just told you the answer.
You also received it in the Oprah response.
Right. I'm asking as of today. The Oprah was
It hasn't
previous.
changed.
Okay. So he's still suspended without pay, and there's the potential that he could return to employment with the county.
There's a certain proceeding that's pending, and I'm not going to speculate as to whether he will or won't.
I understand that, and I would just like to register my concerns about cocaine. There's a lot of people who have serious problems with cocaine, and they need help. Obviously, what the government is doing is not working. Just today, I believe the business administrator of the Woodbridge Township School District came out that he was charged with purchasing cocaine. And of course, we had last year the matter that involved Mr. Campion and more than a dozen other people who were involved in a drug distribution ring. And I'm sorry, not a dozen, 10 people, I believe, were charged in that. And I think we need to take a long and hard look at what, as a society, we're doing with people with drug problems. I think that obviously throwing the book at them and locking them up when they happen to get caught is not effective. I think that cocaine is a very serious problem here, and I think that we shouldn't just pass it over and say, oh, somebody was a bad guy because they were involved in that. I think you need to look into this. I'd like to hear what the freeholders have to say about the drug problem.
It's a serious problem, and we don't legislate punishment for the crime. And that's all I could tell you right now at this point. I mean, it's a concern of every parent, every human being, I think, in this country. But as far as the legislation, punishment for the crime, we have no control over.
Director, just like to add, with respect to cocaine and opiates, I think the county has recognized it as being a significant issue of concern within the county. We have a special task force that's addressing that issue. We have subcommittees that are working on various elements of enforcement, education, use of Narcan, education at all levels, for all different grade levels. We're looking at initiatives within the universities and colleges, direct handouts in cooperation with the NCADD's new website. And I should take a moment to mention that the NCADD has a new website, which is a wonderful tool for anyone who is looking for assistance for themselves or anyone that they know or anyone that they love who they would like to get help for with a drug or alcohol dependency. It's a wonderful tool to be able to help identify the appropriate facility given certain parameters of the individual you're talking about, because facilities vary depending upon the individual, their sex, their age, their medical conditions, and so forth. And this new tool within the NCADD's website is a wonderful way to help try to narrow down the many facilities that are out there into the types of facilities that can work best for the individual who needs help.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else in the public?
Good evening, Jerry Riccardi, Jersey Central Power and Light Company. Good evening, Freeholder Director. Good evening to all the freeholders. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I will be extremely brief. I just want to provide you an update about our Deep Run substation project. We're making this $7 million investment in Middlesex County. On February 5th, we appeared before the Old Bridge Zoning Board. We were given approval, so our work will start on Monday, and we will be at that substation working. We originally thought we would get the approvals a little bit sooner, but it took a little bit longer to get our environmental permits. So our original in-service date was June of 2015. Now it's been pushed back to the fourth quarter of 2015. But it is a tremendous investment in your county. It will provide additional redundancy for electrical supply to be fed to numerous substations in multiple directions. So in case of large power outages, we have additional flexibility and redundancy to get people back in power quicker. So I just want to give you that brief update. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you for the update.
Great night.
Anyone else in the public?
Motion to close the public session.
Second.
Motion by Freeholder Valente, second by Freeholder Tamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Freeholder Valente, second by Freeholder Tamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.